So we're going to talk about just finding good alignment in standing. So a little bit more of a breakdown than what we do in the warm-up. We all are different and we all may find that we are more or less symmetrical. So this is about becoming aware of our body and really seeing what we can do to find our center. So we start with our feet and knees hip width apart. And some of us find it helpful to bring our feet together, and then we open our toes and then we open our heels, and that naturally gives us that width. From here, we're trying to find that equal point so that there is equal weight from one leg to the other. Because in day-to-day life, we tend to, for lots of different reasons, find that we stand or sit a little bit with a preference to weight side to side. So, finding that center position, it's really nice to play with our weight. So we can come forwards and backwards. We can go side to side. And we can find that position where we become aware of equal weight through both of our feet. We want to make sure that the toes are also taking the weight equally to our heels, as if we're making perfect footprints. Be aware of the arches of your feet. Now, we all have different foot shapes, but just think if you can imagine two tiny little pumps underneath the arches of our feet, and they're just blowing up to the size of a raisin. And then come back into the body and just notice. You may see me close my eyes. That's because when I close my eyes, it helps me focus. I kind of get in my inner world, what's really happening. With my eyes open, I'm a bit more distracted. So really noticing where your weight is and see if you can find the center. So we're going to stack up our alignment from our feet down. So our next thing is our knees. So I will stand side on. And we all have different ranges in our knees, and I'd like you to explore that. So gently bending your knees and straightening them back, only moving as comfortable. And I'd like you to find that point where your legs are straight, but there's a bit of softness. And once you're there, come back down to your feet and check that you're still even. From here, a really important part of our neutral spine, our centered spine in standing, is this pelvis complex. So here is our pelvis, and our hip bones are here, and our spine attaches to our pelvis, and we have things called our sacroiliac joints. And there's lots of muscles and connective tissue called fascia, and it's a really big cornerstone of our body. So making sure we're centered, we're going to visualize this pelvis potentially as a bucket. And our bucket can swing in both directions. It can go forwards and backwards, forwards and backwards. Now, I like to have one hand on the front and one hand on the back to notice this. Some of you may like to have your hands on the hips. And when I tip forwards, I feel myself getting a bit more of a hollow back, and my tailbone reaches up to the sky. When I tuck underneath, it's as if my tailbone sweeps between my legs, and maybe there's a little bit of a lift through these abdominal muscles. So tipping forwards, tipping backwards. This is called pelvic tilt. And just being aware of what happens to the feet and the knees as you do this movement. And what we're looking for with practice is that you are able to do this tilt, this rocking of the bucket, without much movement at all in your upper body. Rocking forwards and backwards. And then to find our centre, just go to the extreme of tipping under, so the tailbone's between my legs, and the extreme of tipping forwards as if my tailbone's reaching up to the sky. And I'd like you to find that centre point. Notice how it feels like for you. For me, my abdominals are slightly lifted, there's a slight awareness in my bottom. And once again, depending on how we're naturally built, our skeleton, some of us will have more of a curve in our low back, and some of us will have less. So finding that centre, and then we're going to think about stacking up from the bottom again. So just check equal weight through the feet. Knees are straight but soft, and we're centered through the spine, that halfway position. The next part of our alignment is our ribs. So if you imagine, not only can our pelvis move forwards and backwards like a bucket, but if we look straight down, it would look like a bowl, okay? I like cooking shows, so for me, it's kind of like a chocolate dome, like a half chocolate circle, okay? And my rib cage are another bowl, or maybe it's the top of that chocolate dome. And if they stick together, they make a perfect circle. So I would like you to imagine that you're lining up those two domes. So once you're centered, I'm imagining these two domes are lining up. And then if I put one of my fingers on my breastbone, one of my fingers on my belly button, they should be relatively lined up. From here, can you visualize weights on your shoulder blades? Just gentle weights, allowing your shoulder blades to drop down. And as you do this, you may feel an awareness of opening through the collarbone. So it's really important that we create a gentle opening through the chest. Nothing we should do is extreme. It's really not about pulling those shoulders back. I tend to think of that as an old army position, really rigid and straight. We'd like to create softness. So our collarbones, if you imagine someone's gently smiling, so our collarbones are gently smiling, thinking about that gentle opening that allows that chest to form a really nice position. So let's go through that again. So feet have equal weight through the toes and the heels. The knees are soft but straight. We're centered in our pelvis, and our rib cage bowl and our pelvic bowl are stacked up. We have weights on the base of our shoulder blades, and our collarbones are gently falling open. We're going to come up to our head and our neck, because our spine goes all the way up to the base of our skull. And we're going to play with an idea, and I'm quite visual as a teacher. So a lot of people, I call them tortoises. So their heads are forward like a tortoise. And then the extreme movement of that is coming all the way back into a very unglamorous double chin that makes us look like an owl. So forwards and back. And as you'll learn with Pilates, it's all about that centre. So once you've gone forwards and back, see if you can find that centre position, as if your head is floating up tall, like a tiny piece of string is lifting it up to the ceiling like a helium balloon. And then let's check again. So equal weight through the feet that are hip width apart, knees straight but soft. We're going to make sure that pelvis is in that halfway centre position, and our two bowls are stacked. Weights on the base of the shoulder blades, smiling through those collarbones, head floats up tall. And in this position, we're looking for softness. So just take a gentle breath in. And as we breathe out, stay long and tall and lengthened, but with softness in the posture. We're really trying to release any bracing, checking that there is space between the ears and the shoulders, our jaw is soft. And in all these positions, we can engage those deep inner core muscles, breathing in and out as we gently hold them engaged.